I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth
and the world.
There's a lot that I can forgive, but there needs to be conversations and then in order for reconciliation, and part of that has to be accountability.
He barreled through the Montecito gates, sirens still ringing sharp in our ears. And already, the mansion felt off no longer a fairy tale. Instead of soft candlelight, frantic reds and blues bathed the facade. The once pristine lawn was trampled. Under the heavy boots of first responders, no time spared for royal PR theater. We pressed past a thick hedge of hydrangeas. And there they were lifting Prince Harry, limp and lifeless, like a discarded puppet, onto a gurney. His freckled face carried a hue we never thought possible on Diana's son. Someone yelled for an adrenaline shot, another screamed that the Duke couldn't breathe. And through it all, one question hung heavy in the warm California air. Where is Meghan?
Within the family, as such, there's a spare and the heir. My brother being the heir and me being the spare. And so I think it was just a really good opportunity to choose a title that had been somewhat used against me for a long part of my life and own that title.
We moved through the chaos inside, spotting bodyguard David lying down, phone still clutched tightly in his trembling hand. Over and over he repeats how he found Harry unresponsive on the bedroom floor. Nearby, a shattered glass glints, and a faint scent, stronger than herbal tea, lingers on the nightstand. Paramedics exchange knowing looks possible substance incident, but no one dares say the word out loud. We watch the quiver in David's jaw as he recalls how long the ambulance took to snick its way through Montecito's twisting roads. Quietly, he calls Harry, my captain, the kind of name soldiers whisper for their leaders in crisis. Yet that loyalty can't hide the glaring truth. Meghan Markle, Duchess turned entrepreneur, is nowhere to be found. Racing through their pristine kitchen, spices perfectly arranged by color, fruit staged like art, alabaster bowls, gleaming the picture of curated perfection, we slip out the back door. The driveway stands empty except for Harry's vintage Defender and Meghan's sleek E-Class sedan, her absence louder than any paparazzi flash. Insiders murmur, she slipped away hours earlier, sequined dress, brushed smooth, headed to an exclusive West Hollywood club where no paparazzo dares to tread without an invite. As Harry's breaths stagger alongside heart monitor beeps, we can all...
Harry and Meghan have also been accused of hypocrisy after they restructured their staff, creating what has been labelled the Montecito Royal Court. What does that mean, Kinsey? What's happening?
Almost hear the walls of the carefully crafted Sussex brand crack under the weight of her silent exit. We wonder aloud, was this act simply a wife's instinct for self-preservation, worn thin by endless drama, or the ultimate abandonment, leaving her husband in his darkest hour? We've watched their public image build, brick by enthusiastic brick Netflix deals, influencer podcasts, homemade jam launches. Yet tonight, those bricks scatter across the marble foyer like Lego pieces underfoot. Meghan's own on-air confession about loneliness in business echoes hauntingly. When you only have yourself to answer to, it can be incredibly liberating. It can be incredibly lonely. The words hang in the heavy air like a chilling prophecy while Harry fights for breath on a hospital gurney. A sudden slamming ambulance door shatters the quiet, and news arrives that minutes earlier, an enraged prince hurled his phone against a wall after a call to King Charles went bitterly wrong. Eyewitnesses swear they heard the phrase, "You left me first," a bitter arrow aimed at a father who once promised unwavering support. Palisades decline comment, circling wagons as if the monarchy itself were under siege. Yet we remember the deafening silence from the royal family back in 2020 when the Sussexes announced, after many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make a transition. That statement sold independence, but foreshadowed fracture, and tonight that fracture feels like a wide-open fault line, swallowing everyone who loves him. Meghan Markle's podcast has wrapped its 80th episode run, with no plans yet for a second season. Surprise! The pivot to Meghan's rumored itinerary, private, sweet phone embargo, a hand-picked guest list of Hollywood power players, and a PR fixer famed for crisis wizardry, reportedly by her side unfolds like a chess game, over cocktails spiked with words like pivot and rebrand. We hear she strategized, distancing herself from yet another royal storm. While doctors worked to clear Harry's airway, Meghan allegedly cleared her calendar of all appearances that might link her face to his crisis. We don't say she orchestrated the night, but we watch puzzle pieces click into place, painting a portrait of cold calculation that would chill even the Santa Barbara sun. We flash back to Harry's memoir, Confession of Battling Suffocating Panic in Crowds. I was an agoraphobe, he wrote, bearing a vulnerability the monarchy rarely tolerates. Add whispers of mood-altering powders and the picture Denza, prince who fled one gilded cage only to lock himself inside another, made of Californian glass and we wonder if the sprawling citrus groves taste bittersweet each morning as he wakes, questioning if exile is freedom or a life sentence. Your Royal Highness, Meghan Markle, congratulations to you both. Thank you. Can we start with the proposal? The moment of your engagement, when and how did it happen? It was a few weeks ago. Early this month, at our cottage. Just a standard, typical night for us cozy. We were roasting chicken and having fun trying to roast chicken. Meanwhile, Meghan's entrepreneurial starsours were taught not to talk about money, and there's so much guilt around having a lot, she recently admitted on her podcast while unveiling luxury partnerships, even as she lamented scarcity mindsets. Critics sneer that guilt fades fast when each jam jar sells out in under an hour, but fans insist physical ambition is her birthright. The chasm between those stories is where the Sussex brand lives half fairy tale, half Greek tragedy. Tonight, it yawns wider than ever. Days tick by as we stalk hospital corridors. See London numbers light up Harry's phone, old army mates, ex-police advisors, even a distant cousin from Gloucester calling with improbable offers. Come home, regroup, let the crown spin its protective cocoon once more. He answers a few calls, but sources say he asks about protocols for reinstating partial royal duties. An echo of refuge from a man who once burned the rulebook on live TV. Montecitos. Salt air apparently tastes less like freedom when your partner's eyes glaze with next launch fervor, and your own reflection feels like a supporting character in her lifestyle show. There was talk. Meghan's team approached someone about a divorce book. Imagine if Meghan left Harry, it would destroy her reputation. She'd be publicly eviscerated. Already lumped on social media with Amber Heard and other women labeled narcissistic or controlling, we dig into Meghan's secret meetings with image consultants behind tinted restaurant windows, whispering action, plans to segment her identity from Sussex to simply Meghan. The Shepherd brand, as ever, leans toward a wholesome hospitality empire, reducing headlines that mention Harry's hospital bracelets. One strategist reportedly floated the line, "First mother, second trailblazer," as a tagline. Innocent enough until you remember the missing centerpiece, a partner in crisis. We can almost taste the resentment brewing like strong espresso. In the hospital cafeteria, through it all, the palace remains shrouded in that signature fog of no comment. Yet royal watchers notice subtle tells Charles postpones public appearances. William looks unusually tense, leaving Kensington. They know any outreach can be spun, either as compassionate or opportunistic meddling. And with every hour, Harry remains in that Santa Barbara ward. The monarchy's past decision to withhold full security funding feels colder. Inside Balmoral corridors, whispers ask if the second son's descent might become a cautionary tale, warning of what happens when duty is discarded. But what people don't see, Harry said, are the efforts I've made to resolve this privately, with both my brother and my father. Constantly, for the last 6 years, especially the last 2. I think my mother would realize the missed opportunity with Meghan being part of the institution, part of the monarchy, and I think she's looking forward to the time when William and I see eye to eye and are joined at the hip again. Back in California, Meghan's social media blossoms with carefully curated inspirational quotes and sun-dappled snaps of her baking peach crostadas with children just out of frame. The timing, curiously aligned with tabloid splashing prints and peril across morning headlines. To some, it's brand synergy. To others, a tone-deaf deflection. We remind ourselves, curated grids are modern armor. Still, the sharp contrast between sterile fluorescent lights and influencer-grade lighting stings like salt rubbed into an open wound. We track Harry's slow discharge, the stiff smile, forced for curious nurses, the subtle tremor in his hand. As he signs paperwork, a private recovery villa awaits. But insiders describe Meghan's arrival there as executive mode, not warmth. She allegedly briefs staff on product inventory before inquiring about her husband's hydration levels. Outsiders brand her ruthless, defenders say pragmatic. We just keep the cameras rolling, because truth lives in the gray flicker between the frames. And if I were a troublemaker, I might accuse Harry and Meghan of unconscious bias in hiring all the new faces joining their entertainment ventures. If history repeats itself, as Harry often complains it does, both will keep rejecting sound advice and potentially mistreat their staff. So, good luck. Whispers grow that Harry's longtime friend Nacho and a former Aquarian ally are quietly assembling a support team to coax him back to Britain, at least for a mental health reset. They argue he thrived on regimented purpose, not Malibu meandering. Invictus planning sessions in London could ground him again. Meghan's camp scoffs privately, citing the couple's permanent relocation and past firm lines and statements. Plus, Archie and Lilibet have us schooling obligations by law. Yet friends, note Meghan's brand's next season drops early 2026, plenty of time for a Windsor family photo op if optics demand. Hollywood opportunists circle, sensing goals beyond beach fries. Producers tease a redemption docuseries, Harry's Heal or Collapse, which could net millions if he speaks candidly about that Montecito night. Meghan's camp allegedly sees synergy with her wellness ventures and transformative storytelling. But Harry's advisors warn that rehashing crisis for cash risks. Future reproach with the House of Windsor. We picture him, torn a prince, navigating sharks without a compass, his mother's warmth in his heart, his wife's ambition in his ear, and his survival instinct somewhere in between. I've never been part of tabloid culture, Harry shared, never really in pop culture to that degree. I lived a relatively quiet life despite focusing on my work. It was a stark difference out of the gate, and I was hit hard with mistruths. So, I chose not to read anything. Meanwhile, Meghan's freshly minted court of staffers swells weekly, mirroring the palace hierarchy she once criticized, a communications lead on a six-figure salary, a lifestyle guru flown in from Denmark, a former Silicon Valley strategist hired to gentrify influence. Royal historians laugh at the irony. Supporters hail it as the birth of an American Duchess dynasty. Yet even fans can't ignore the churn. 20 departures since 2018, a talent carousel spinning faster than a Windsor tea tray. Rumors of marital fissures spread. We probe the couple's finances. Tens of millions in streaming deals. A $14 million mansion mortgage ballooning like reality TV drama. Private jet expenses, PR spins as security protocols. Meghan publicly wrestles with wealth guilt while privately courting billionaire mentors. Harry, once a champion of veteran charities, now confronts the optics of luxury amid admitted agoraphobia. Tension simmers behind closed doors when a Netflix producer requests extra B-roll of their children. Harry balks. Meghan negotiates a halt to cameras, but the strain stays live. Well, I'm sure at the onset both my parents and close friends were concerned, Meghan said, because we got swept up quickly in a media storm that wasn't part of my life before. But they had never seen me so happy. We revisit the explosive phone call to King Charles. Sources say Meghan urged Harry to postpone it until she could craft talking points. He rang anyway, raw and rambling. Courtiers later described the king as deeply rattled by his son's accusations, yet still willing to fund a discreet rehab retreat if cameras stayed away, and Meghan signed a confidentiality clause. Reportedly, Meghan refused, citing brand transparency, and the deal fell apart before a signature was penned. We watch Harry retreat into late-night video calls with former regiment friends. He jokes about missing proper pints and wet English afternoons, then suddenly falls silent, eyes glazing over. One friend sends a clip of William delivering a charity speech. Harry's laptop abruptly closes. The gulf between princes once an inch now feels like a light year. I think, as we've talked about, this show completely underperformed. A source says, it didn't really appear on Spotify charts. This was the podcast she made with Lemonada Media. Money details remain unclear. Original Spotify deal went south. She signed with Rumors swirl. Meghan's team secured a talk show pilot. A friendly network host offered a monthly slot to spotlight female founders. No royal titles needed. Just Meghan. It feels like a calculated step to unhook her brand from a surname. Dragging negative headlines, observers warn the unspoken corollary, shedding the title might soon mean shedding the man who bestowed it. As spring blooms into blazing California sun, the story continues. That summer, we catch Harry pacing the sprawling backyard, a bone pressed to his ear, voice cracking with a desperation close to pleading. He's reportedly begging a palisade for archival footage related to Invictus, maybe even a grace period on security contributions. The call ends with a choked, "Thank you, sir, a respect no Montecito focus group can deprogram." Meanwhile, Meghan schedules a hush-hush summit with the New York venture capital circle, plotting to scale her lifestyle empire to rival household names by 2030. Attendees must leave phones at the door, sign NDAs, and address her strictly as founder. Harry, not on the guest list. Instead, he's rumored to meet an old therapist in Malibu, the same who guided him through panic attacks after Afghanistan. Two paths diverge on the Pacific Coast Highway, and we can't stop wondering which leads to survival. Nothing or without her. Harry's American life is nothing. Will he? Yes, exactly. He has a reputation to fall back on. So, they have a symbiotic relationship. Yeah, they need each other. Insiders describe nights where the couple barely exchange words. Mornings where Meghan drifts through the kitchen dictating action items while Harry stares at avocado toast growing cold. Yet social media shows them beaming, arms entwined, captions preaching gratitude and growth. Psychologists warn that curated happiness can mask deep fractures. Friends worry the gap between private anguish and public sparkle may soon swallow them whole. Whispers of separation agreements flutter at the edges of legal circle. Stock of child residency clauses, co-parenting frameworks, brand untangling strategies. Nothing filed, nothing official yet. Every time the rumor surfaces, Harry reportedly shreds the paperwork in waves of guilt, convinced a broken home would echo his own childhood trauma. Meghan supposedly reminds him modern families come in many forms, that joint empowerment sometimes means separate stages. He replies something about vows, and forever muffled behind a slammed door. There's always been this competition between us. Weirdly, Harry once said, I think it really played into where was played by the heir and spare dynamic. Meanwhile, British tabloids sharpen their quills, ready to paint Harry as the prodigal prince and Meghan the puppet master. But isn't the tragedy deeper? A man fleeing royal cages now trapped by glossy Californian expectations. A woman clawing from cable show obscurity into global spotlight, now wondering if that very glow scorched her marriage. Each seems to hold the other's salvation and downfall in trembling hands. And still, Harry's hospitalization looms as more than a one-off emergency. It feels like a flashing warning siren. Those closest to him fear a pattern. Escalating stress, self-medication, emotional isolation, support systems crumble, palace trust erodes, marital bonds fray, Hollywood friends loyal only to the next premiere. Then the next headline might eclipse any we've reported. We speak softly among ourselves because even hardened gossip veterans flinch, imagining where unchecked despair can lead. You speak about your brother and the argument. Were there fights? Almost like you should do what I tell you. No, he didn't. It wasn't like that. It was more a brotherly competition. Yet hope flickers. Observers spotted Harry and Meghan emerging from a Montecito counseling center last week, hands clasped. No cameras invited. Maybe therapy, not PR, will write the next chapter. Maybe Meghan's ambition pivots toward healing synergy instead of brand sovereignty. Maybe the crown remembers monarchy at its core should safeguard its own blood. Or maybe we're witnessing the final unraveling before the threads snap for good. We stand at the cliff's edge of that question as storm clouds gather over coastal hills. We imagine Harry staring out to sea, remembering his mother's comforting hand, wondering if history is doomed to cycle pain through generations. Meghan, in another wing, might be drafting product names while humming lullabies, convincing herself she can juggle parenthood, empire, and a wounded husband indefinitely. The palace lights thousands of miles away glow steady, closed to both of them. It was just an amazing surprise, so sweet and natural, and very romantic. He got on one knee, of course. Was it an instant yes from you? Yes. I could barely let him finish, I said. Can I say yes now? She didn't even let me finish, she said. Can I say yes now? Then hugs, and I had the ring on my finger, and I was like, can I give you the ring? And she goes, oh yes, the ring. And so we end where the rumors began, with one fragile man on the precipice, and one fiercely ambitious woman guarding her future. We've traced every alley of speculation, every flicker of palace intrigue, every PR chess move, yet the core mystery remains. Are they allies in a storm, or rivals on a sinking ship? We can only watch the next chapter unfold, breath held, as the Sussex saga hurtles toward an ending nobody can script. If Harry's support system keeps splintering, we fear the next alert won't be another hospital dash, but the unthinkable. Could this fairy tale couple become a modern tragedy carved in real time before our disbelieving eyes? Tell us what you believe. Behind those Montecito gates, is Meghan masterminding an Exeter? Is the palace pulling strings from afar? Share your theory below, and hold tight to your TEB, cause this story is far from over. Until our next pulse-pounding dispatch, goodbye for now. Stay curious, stay bold, and keep your ears tuned to the whispering winds of royal scandal.